Good morning. I'm Dr. Richard Pan, and I want to call to order this joint informational hearing of the Senate and Assembly Select Committees on the Census, 2020 Census, and I want to welcome everyone for being here today. And I want to thank everyone for your interest in the census. So this is the first of many joint hearings with the Senate and Assembly Select Committees of the Census. I'm sure that you all have common census. All right. That's play my staff. And are all aware of how critical the census is to California. And I'm sure many of you may be familiar with these numbers, but I think they illustrate the picture well. For every person undercounted, California loses $2,000 per person per year. In fact, in 2015, California received about $76 billion in federal funds based off the population count, funds that went to health care, transportation, education, and other services. So it's important that everyone is counted, not only for the financial security, but also to ensure their place in history. Today, we hope to get an overview of the census and the different roles everyone plays to help ensure an accurate and complete count. This upcoming census will be particularly more challenging than previous years, so we want to get a better sense of how we can prepare for those barriers in advance. Obviously, there is much more that needs to be discussed within the limits of today's hearing, but this is only the beginning. We have a great lineup for you today. We are going to hear from many experienced and knowledgeable people who have engaged in past censuses and are preparing for the one ahead. They will share their lessons, best practices, and ways we can prepare ourselves for the 2020 census. And I want to thank all our speakers for taking time out of your busy schedules and even traveling to be with us here today. I also want to thank my co-chair, Senator Berman, and his staff for working diligently with mine to make this hearing possible. I also want to thank our Senate Pro Tem, Tony Atkins, her staff, and the Senate Office of Research for all their hard work and support as well. The Senate Office of Research was kind enough to bring you the background paper. Just a few reminders before I pass it over to my co-chair. Please keep comments to the times previously worked out with the staff. My timer here, Alyssa, will notify how much time you have, so please don't forget to look up. After each panel, we'll go into a Q&A portion, which will not be timed and will allow us to go into more detail on some of the issues that might have been brought up and that you may not be able to fully cover in your opening comments. All of the PowerPoint presentations and documents you see today will be available on the Select Committee websites. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here, and now invite my co-chair, Senator Berman, to make his opening remarks.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pan. And thank you, everyone, to coming to participate as speakers or just to listen to today's testimony. I couldn't be more excited about our joint hearing of the Senate and the Assembly Select Committees on the census. Usually when you create a select committee, you have to beg your colleagues to participate. And this time we actually had to turn people away. At least on the Assembly side, there were more people that wanted to participate than we had slots. And I actually had to go ask the Speaker if we could increase the number of spots on the Select Committee, to which he said no, which was the right answer, to keep it small and so that we can actually get good work done. But I think that's just an indication of how much interest there is, how much anxiety there is around the census, both in the Assembly, in the Senate, and in our communities back home. So the Select Committees are going to play a critical role in bringing information up from all of our districts that we can then pass on to the governor's office and the state Complete Counts Committee, and also just keeping track of the efforts of the Complete Count Committee, the State Complete Count Committee, and the governor's office, and make sure that we have the necessary funding to conduct a robust outreach and communication effort into all of our communities, because we always have an undercount in the census. There's always been historically in California undercount. We have some of the most hard to count counties in the country, including LA County, which is the hardest to count county in the country. But things are a little bit more difficult now with the anxiety and fear in some of our communities around efforts that are being undertaken by the federal government. So it's that important that we triple our efforts, that we're as coordinated as possible, that we get experts to come in and give us advice on past practice, what's worked and what hasn't. And we're going to make sure that everybody in California gets counted. Every resident in California gets counted. So with that, I'll introduce our first guest, We're especially honored to welcome former Census Director Vince Baraba to open this joint special hearing on preparing for the 2020 census. I cannot think of anyone with more experience and knowledge in this field to launch today's discussions. Director Baraba has compiled a long and illustrious career serving in a variety of business, political, and public service positions. For our purposes today, it is his distinction of receiving appointments by presidents of different parties to the position of Director of U.S. Bureau of the Census, during which time he presided over the 1980 census. Some of you may also know him as a member of California's Citizens Redistricting Commission, where the 2010 census data was the foundation of its decision-making. It's my special pleasure to invite Director Vince Baraba to share his wealth of insights with us today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. If we could have our first slide. Okay. Relative to my personal history with the Bureau, I was a user, and my wife wanted me to make it clear that I was a user of census data, not user of anything else. From 1964 to 72, because I did a lot of political campaign work here in the state of California and throughout the country. I became a pusher in 1973 and 76, and in 79 and 81 as the director of the Census Bureau. A pusher, yeah, again, of census data. and then I became a user again. I became addicted in 1981 to 2010. We're involved with the business strategies for large corporations. Then in 2010, and until now, I was a commissioner on the California Citizens Redistricting Commission. So let's start with the two questions that was asked, and that was the historical context regarding the census and why is the census important for what it's used. So let me start with these first two. Next slide, there you are. I know you can't read that, so I'll have to read it to you. So we've been counting our entire population and using the census of inhabitants, not citizens, but inhabitants, for a long time. This letter came from the Postmaster General, written in 1793, and it serves as an example. If there be any spare copies of the Census of Inhabitants of the States in the office of the Secretary of State, the Postmaster General requests Mr. Jefferson to favor him with one, it being proper to attend to the population of the country in forming an opinion upon the application of new post roads. That was in 1793. So in addition to allocating seats in Congress, we even had a little effect on where post offices were included. Next, there you are. So making sure everyone is counted is really a very difficult task, particularly as it relates to hard-to-reach populations, as well as those who are concerned about how the information will be used. And I'm glad that the governor and the legislature have undertaken an outreach and education program to help the census succeed. I've had to address the issues of reaching out and communicating with hard-to-count communities both times that I ran the census. And here's what we did in 1974. In 1974, we created the first minority census advisory committees. Prior to doing so, Jack Ingram, one of the Bureau's African Americans, suggested to me that if we don't get the right people to participate, the impact of the committees on the communities we wanted to reach out to would be of little value. And we started this effort by reaching out to the African American community. The first person we asked to join the committee was Bobby Seale of the Black Panthers. But first we had to locate him, which proved to be quite a task. We eventually reached him through 5 intermediaries, and once he agreed to attend a meeting to form the committee, we managed to bring together a very representative group of African American leaders covering the full range of perspectives from the NAACP to the Urban League, civil rights activists, and academics. Next slide. When you are creating an outreach program, be sure you are identifying real community leaders who can carry the message about the importance of the census to their own communities. And let me tell you a story. Abdullah Shabazz was one of the first members of the Black Advisory Committee. Dr. Shabazz participated actively on the advisory committee, but I remember him most for how he intently listened to both sides of any discussion. And when he spoke, there was no question he had thought through every word. I would appreciate how well he was listening when I returned to the census in 1979. That year, he arranged for me to visit with Wells D. Muhammad at the Muslim mosque in Chicago's South Side. There was one or two of my cousins in Chicago said, "You're going to the South Side on Stony Island?" But we went. And when we arrived, I was escorted into the mosque, and within minutes, Imam Muhammad arrived. I plan to present him with the reasoning behind our request for the Muslims community to participate in the '80 census, reversing their decision not to participate as they had in 1970. Before I could start, Imam Muhammad began the discussion by pointing out that he had received a very positive report on our procedures and our intent from Dr. Shabazz, and he had directed his leadership team to communicate to the membership that the Muslim community should participate. He pointed out they would use the Muslim school system as the primary source of communication. The whole meeting took about 5 minutes. It was clear to us that Dr. Shabazz had not only listened well, but he had taken full measure of what was said and promised by the Census Bureau, and then conveyed his a reasonable point of view to the Muslim leadership. Jack Ingram was right when he said it would be very important we get people on the committee with credible reputations. He must have been thinking of people like Dr. Shabazz, and it's my advice that in all of California's census outreach, we need to make sure you find as many Dr. Shabazzes as you possibly can. Now, the next slide, please. In this message, Robert Merton makes the observation and surfaces the potential that when incorrect situations are perceived by people as real, they are real in their consequences. So today, if U.S. citizens, those who are here illegally, or are from a minority group, perceive that the claim that by filling out the census form, they will be placing themselves in danger, they will be less likely to fill out the form and therefore not be counted in the 2020 census. In California, there is a real danger of people not filling out the census form, and that's why spending money on education program in California is really important. In this case, the perception of possible direct harm by filling out the form is not correct. It's not correct because it is against the law, Title 13 of the U.S. Code, for any Census Bureau employee to disclose or publish any census or survey information that identifies an individual or business. So although I strongly believe that the citizenship question should not be added to the 2020 census, if it is added, it is important to correct the perception that the individual's information will be available to other agencies of government who might cause them harm, and encourage all inhabitants of the United States to stand up and be counted. The state will need a program to get the word out about Title 13 and be sure that the people understand that Title 13 protects them so that they will be counted. And I will now provide 2 examples based on my own experience to demonstrate the extent to which the Census Bureau can keep its promise. On Wednesday, August 13, 1980, 4 FBI agents arrived at the district office in Colorado Springs, armed with a search warrant authorizing them to seize census documents, including completed questionnaires, in the course of their legitimate investigation of a case involving alleged questionnaire falsification and payroll fraud. I was immediately informed of the situation, recognized the potentially disastrous situation in which both the FBI and the Census Bureau had stumbled on, and I reached the director of the FBI, who was having dinner at a restaurant. After several telephone calls to our employees in Colorado, we agreed to a satisfactory conclusion that allowed the FBI to proceed while the disputed questions remained in the custody of the Census Bureau. Ultimately, the documents were placed in a secure room protected by 2 locks, one key held by the FBI and the other by local census officials. Under this arrangement, only sworn census employees were allowed to enter the room. But an FBI agent had to be present when the door was opened to make sure that appropriate people entered. When the door was locked, an agent was stationed outside the room to make sure unauthorized personnel did not enter the room. The Census Bureau brought in experienced enumerators from outside of the Denver area to re-interview the respondents in the area where the alleged fraud had taken place. And they did a re-canvass of those individuals and then compared that re-canvass to the what was brought in as a problem by the FBI, and it was all resolved. Under Title 13, even the address lists used to be of the census are confidential. In the litigation that followed the 1980 census, the City of New York obtained a district court order requiring the Census Bureau to turn over its address registers for the city so that local officials might compare the listings with their own records. Because of the lawsuit, we were under a court order not to deliver the census results to the President. Thanks to Justice Thurgood Marshall, I received a phone call late the evening of December 31st indicating that the Justice had stayed the ruling, and the next morning the Secretary of Commerce and I forwarded the census results to the President. In 1982, the case was ultimately reached the U.S. Supreme Court, which decided in the Census Bureau's favor. Address lists could not be disclosed either through civil discovery or under the Freedom of Information Act. I've got a few more minutes, and if I'm running out of time, I could just go ahead. Okay. If we could have the next slide, please. Yeah. It took more than 7 years to process the 1880 count of 50 million Americans. Given that the rate of growth was expected to continue, particularly because of increased immigration, the Bureau was concerned that the 1890 count might not be completed until after the 1900s started. The Census Bureau took advantage of the counting machine recently invented by Herman Hollerith, a census employee at the time, that used specially encoded punch cards, each representing an individual census data. Hollerith's device revolutionized census tabulation. The 1890 count of 63 million people was completed in less than a year, even though the census included 3 times as many questions and another 13 million people. That improvement in time to the count was impressive, but the way the information was used adds even more to the story. By counting 13 million more people in a fraction of the time, the Census Bureau was able to release constitutionally mandated information that caused the number of representatives to Congress to increase from 325 to 356. Among the fastest growing states at that time, Nebraska added 3 representatives, while Pennsylvania, Texas, Minnesota, and Illinois each added 2. If the increased speed of the count from 1890 hadn't have been possible, the citizens of those growing states would have been underrepresented in Congress for 7 years or more. Next slide. In July of 1976, Vice President Rockefeller visited the Census Bureau to serve as the keynote speaker at a ceremony commemorating the 25th anniversary of the Bureau's installation of UNIVAC-1, the world's first commercial electronic computer. Also in attendance were Dr. John Walkley and J. Presper Eckert, the inventors of the UNIVAC. Among the artifacts on display was a memory storage unit roughly 36 inches long and 8 inches in diameter. Vice President Rockefeller, always a very interested person, asked Walkley and Eckert how big an equivalent storage device would be in using current technology. The 2 inventors paused, thought a second or two, and then replied, "Mr. Vice President, it would be so small you could not see it." And this was the first commercial computer, and I think it was used for the census. It's fascinating to think about the extent of involvement in just 25 years. Since 1890, a lot has changed in the world of data collection and processing. For example, thanks to dedicated workers of the Census Bureau, photo-optical scanning devices, and UNIVAC 1110 computer, I was able to deliver a significantly more detailed and accurate count of 226,545,805 people to the President on January 1st, 1981, 9 months after the Bureau sent out the questionnaires in April of 1980. The advent of the Internet and other technologies has led to the development of social media and mobile devices, which in turn have altered the way people interact with business, governments, and educational institutions. The subsequent changes in human behavior demand that we reinvent the process we used in the past. And that is what the Census Bureau has attempted to do for 2020 census. What has been difficult is the manner in which the current administration has imposed untested questions and procedures on how the census will be conducted. Once again, it is important that California lead the way to a successful census, and there are many people that speak languages other than English in California. There are many people who don't have access to the internet, and California will need to take an active role to be sure every Californian is counted in the 20 census. And I would add to that, the legislature should make sure that the statewide database is continued to be fully funded and staffed properly. That was one of the really great benefits to the Redistricting Commission, having that access to that data available. Well, that's a brief summary, and I'll be happy to attempt to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Baraba. Really appreciate the historical context and a couple of cases that I wasn't aware of. I want to open it up to my colleagues. Mr. Jones-Sawyer.
Actually, I want to thank you for the historical perspective. And I have, hopefully 2 quick questions. Because my district, the 59th Assembly District, South LA, had some of the poorest numbers showing, and we have to do something different if we go back and do the same thing again. So probably some of the young folks don't remember, but going to the Nation of Islam and enlisting their help, or going to Bobby Seale and the Black Panthers, was out of the box. And I think we got to do some things that are out of the box to get people in my community fully get involved in that. And I'll be honest with you, that may involve some food, some music. They may involve some things that you wouldn't traditionally do. So I kind of want to know, how did you, and back then you probably met a lot of resistance to doing that, so I wanted to hear about that. And then 2, I'm really concerned about the security of the information, because if I will tell you right now, if this goes to the Supreme Court and you on keeping the information from the President of the United States, if a black jurist calls you, you will not get the same answer that you got from Thurgood Marshall. I guarantee you that. And so in my community, there are a lot of people that are very, very concerned, and that could have a really detrimental impact if I can't tell them with some confidence that those records wouldn't be used or abused to separate families and things of that nature. So one, how did you break out of the box and do things differently, and can we use that so I can do things differently? And then 2, the security of this information is really important.
Well, getting Bobby Seale was a real interesting exercise, particularly in an administration led by Richard Nixon, to an advisory committee. And so when he came, we had this meeting, and the conversation was not going well. It was clear that everybody was not confident that they could trust this the Census Bureau to keep all the things they were saying. So Bobby Seale said, "Can we take a break?" And no, he said, "Can we separate so that we could talk to ourselves?" And I said, "No, in a public hearing sponsored by the government, somebody from the government has to be here." So he said, "Can we take a break?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, you take your break out there and we'll take our break in here." About 45 minutes later, the break was over. And so we came back in, and he said, "Well, we've decided to give you a chance. And the only reason we're giving you a chance is because if you don't do it, we're going to really nail you to the cross." But it took somebody like him to convince people who were nervous about it to say, "Hey, this is worth trying, because if we don't try it, we're going to get hurt anyway."
Yeah, well, I'm more concerned about the Nixon government than.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you nobody in that government saw the information. And I could tell you that.
Well, you had a Supreme Court judge that, according to what you said, kind of ruled in your favor.
Well, they couldn't see it. They would have to violate the law, and what the judge was saying is the law stands.
Okay, and what I'm saying is this Supreme Court may say something different. And that's what I'm concerned about.
I got to tell you, I would be frankly startled if they did, because it's so clear that you can't. It's really not a partisan issue in that sense. And now, will there be attempts? I would not be surprised, but I got to tell you, pretty much as I had to do with the director of the FBI in 1980, it will be those attempts will be thwarted.
Well, I hope so.
By the employees of the Bureau.
Okay.
So, and by the way, my guess is there would be significant resignations if they were required to do that, because it's a very big event at the Census Bureau.
Thank you, Barbara, for your presentation. I had a question. So we're here, of course, as the the informational hearing for the state of California. Obviously, the U.S. Census is run by the federal government. We have our conflicts with the current administration. How do you see, what are things that we as a state can do to help boost the census, given the fact that we may have, well, to a certain degree, I think we'll have cooperation. To a certain degree, we may have, they may not cooperate, right? So, for example, we're hearing that instead of, 6 follow-ups, they're only do 3 follow-ups. So we can't add more follow-ups, I don't know. But what are the things we can do as a state to, in the face of a federal government that's actually running the census count itself, to try to increase the count while basically interfacing with a system that may or may not want to be cooperative with our efforts? So I would appreciate your thoughts as someone who ran the U.S. Census.
Well, I would say that though I'm familiar with the issues with the administration, and as a citizen share your concern, the employees of the Bureau want to count everyone. There is no question about that. And they will do everything they can within the rules that are placed upon them to do that. And one of the rules is they shall not violate Title 13 of the U.S. Code. So I would say that what you have started here in the state, which is an outreach program, goes well beyond what the Census Bureau could afford to do, and is probably considered more acceptable by the citizens of the state, because you're having Californians ask them to participate because it's in the interests of Californians. And this is going to be different in different parts of the state. When you're in the Central Valley, it's going to be an entirely different set of issues than you run in the south part of Los Angeles, or up in the northern part of the state, or the Bay Area. So having the outreach program that you've started, funded properly, and then with the background of finding the right people, finding the Lonnie Shabazes of California for those communities, in my mind, is probably the most meaningful thing you can do. And this will not be inexpensive. It'll be very expensive to do that. And the other thing I would suggest is making sure that database is set up, ready to go, because accessing this census is going to be really interesting, given all the things that are going on between it and its availability. And so having access to that information and understanding what's good and what's maybe not good about it will be very important.
Mr. Chow.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you for your testimony. You mentioned earlier about the use of technology and social media in this upcoming census. And I was just wondering what measures would potentially be implemented to safeguard the information or the data that we're going to be collecting from these people in terms of cybersecurity is concerned. I mean, how do we ensure that the database that you mentioned earlier would not be hacked into or tampered with? This is somewhat similar to the security issue or question that was raised earlier, but this is more in terms of the technology piece in light of the advance in technology and computers.
Yeah, I can't tell you what will be available because it's probably beyond my understanding at this point. But I do know that the Census Bureau has that listed as one of their biggest concerns because they've seen what's happened. But I don't know what procedures or technology is available to them.
Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Baraba? Well, I just want to say thanks. I mean, I think what you said and what was reinforced by Mr. Jones-Sawyer about the sanctity of that information, the security of the data that's collected, and the fact that it cannot be used for any other governmental purpose. You know, we have a job. First we have to convince ourselves of that fact. Then we have to convince the stakeholders of that fact and empower them to go and convince their communities of that fact. And it's going to be a really, important and challenging effort because there isn't a lot of trust right now, and rightfully so. And so, those two historical examples of times that governmental entities have tried to use that info and have been stopped is incredibly helpful. Dr. Pan and I were in a conversation yesterday with a group of foundations, and this issue came up, and we discussed the need to really come up with material that gives people that confidence, and having those two historical examples will definitely help with that, because if we can't convince people of that, then we haven't done our job.
And I think you would find other examples that are more current as well, if I had a bet. And the Census Bureau, I'm sure, will be happy to provide those. But the real key, and it's not the legislature talking to the citizenship, it's the Lonnie Shabazz talking to.
Yeah. Yep.
That'll
Absolutely.
Be the key.
Those trusted messengers.
You bet.
So thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Bravo.
you.
I really appreciate it. Do you want to introduce the next folks? You want me to?
Okay, so our next panel is the California Complete Count group. We have Daniel Torres, Director of Immigrant Integration at the Office of the Governor and Chair of the California Complete Count Committee, and Didas Katagi, who's also Director of the Census 2020 California Complete Count. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And ask if you can maximum 5 minutes apiece, and then that way we will have time for Q&A as well. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you for the leadership of the Governor's Office as well.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Pan, Chairman Berman, members of the committee, and staff. My name is Dan Torres. I'm the Director of Immigrant Integration in the Governor's Office. I also serve as the Chair of the California Complete Count Committee. And I'll be speaking today about the work of the California Complete Count Committee in the Census 2020 campaign, and my colleague Didas Katagi will be presenting on the federal census operation and California's plan for Census 2020. Thank you for inviting us to speak about the importance of the work ahead. The Governor is very committed to ensuring that California has a fair and complete count in Census 2020. We recognize that the work of getting a complete count can only be done through great partnerships, including a great partnership with the legislature. So thank you, and thank you to your staff who've been working very closely with us in developing our strategy and joining us in the field, talking to stakeholders on what we need to do to make sure that California has a complete count. The mission of our campaign is to ensure that Californians get their fair share of federal resources and congressional representation by encouraging the full participation of all Californians in Census 2020. Our goal is to ensure that everyone is counted once, only once, and in the right place. And one of the main strategies, as Director Baraba mentioned, is the development of a statewide complete count committee that, in this case, will serve as an advisory body to the overall state campaign. And the Complete Count Committee will develop recommendations on strategies that educate, motivate, and help Californians participate in the Census 2020 effort. The Governor appointed 25 members to the State Complete Count Committee, and actually following the advice of Dr. Baraba, there are 25 people who are representative of hard-to-count communities throughout California, trusted messengers, leaders, folks that will help validate our efforts and message around why it's in the interest of all Californians to participate in the census. They include representatives from business, labor, government, education, faith-based institutions, media, philanthropic, and nonprofit organizations. The Senate Pro Tem and the Speaker have each appointed a member to the committee. And they will collaborate with our state office and the U.S. Census Bureau. They're going to offer their own expertise on how to develop a comprehensive strategy to reach hard-to-count communities, and they'll identify effective methods of outreach as they have long careers in doing outreach on difficult issues. They will assist us with developing local relationships and liaison with local complete count committees and mobilize their grassroots networks to help us with this effort. And they also have a wealth of connections to outside experts that they will bring into this conversation and help us dig more deeply into what we need to do. In the past, the complete count committees have had the same purpose in developing advice to the state effort. The configurations of the committees have been different. In 2000, we had an 18-member committee, also representative of hard-to-count communities. In 2010, we had a 52-member complete count committee that served more as a speakers bureau. So this time around, we wanted to get back to you a mission of focusing on the hard-to-count communities and getting representatives from those communities at the table so they can help structure and advise us on how to reach those communities. We've had one meeting already, and the Complete Count Committee has decided to take on 4 initial issues of concern and have developed working groups to take on those challenges. The 4 include housing, making sure that we have a strategy to locate people and to know where to count people. So getting all the different inputs, data, finding the stakeholders that serve homeless populations and make sure they're informing us and the Federal Bureau on where to locate people, farm worker housing, all the group quarters, and a lot of new developments that have not been on the radar before. The second group will be working on content of the census questionnaire, including the citizenship question, which we know is going to be very challenging for California, given that we have over 10 million people in California that are foreign-born, about 2.5 million that are undocumented, so many households with mixed status members that are very concerned about completing the questionnaire. So a working group is forming to help us think about how to address that question. The third group is forming around trust and confidentiality to think about how we reach all issues of around security, including cybersecurity, sharing of data, and messaging around Title 13. And a fourth group that'll focus on access issues, which include language access, reaching language-isolated communities, and people with disabilities, and making sure our materials and the federal materials are accessible to all Californians. In contrast to prior efforts, the committee has been formed 2 years in advance of the census, so that gives us more time than before to leverage their expertise and networks and hit the ground running. And after our first meeting, I can tell you the committee is very engaged and is embracing the challenges ahead. So with that, I'm going to pass this over to Ditas Katagi. Ditas was the Deputy Director of the Census 2000 campaign for California and the Director of the 2010 campaign. And she'll be, again, talking about the federal operation and California's plan.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Well, I wanted to actually thank Director Baraba, because that original race advisory committee that they set up at the Census Bureau when he was there has evolved to the National Advisory Committee on Race, Ethnicities, and Other Populations. And I've been serving on that since 2012, and I've been the chair since 2015. So thank you very much. So I know that we didn't have anyone from the Census Bureau currently, so I wanted to just take 3 slides, and I'll talk really fast because I know I have a little bit of time. Wanted to make sure that everybody understood that it is a federal operation. It's the most complex federal operation. Impacts, of course, are apportionment, redistricting, distribution of dollars, as mentioned. It's an inclusive event, and it's really civic engagement at its finest. And for me, I come back, this is my 3rd decennial, because I believe it's the foundation to our democracy. So really quickly, I'd really like this slide that Jamie Christie from the U.S. Census Bureau had shared with our Complete Count Committee. Again, it's really 4 major operations broken. It's a very complex operation, but they put it into these buckets, which is they got to establish where to count. It's address-based. It's not done by email or anything like that, although the responses can be done online. So right now, they're currently undergoing the local update of census addresses, which is called LUCA, which the governor put aside, and you guys passed $7 million. Many of your local areas are actually doing that. That's super important because it's the invitation list. If you get that wrong, you're not going to get a form. So then the Census Bureau motivates people to respond. That's where we can help. And we can help at the state level and the local level along these areas. So, of course, establishing where to count, that's the locals. They can help the Census Bureau get the right list. Motivating people to respond, as Director Baraba said, it's locally done in terms of to be most effective. All of us can sit here and tell people to be counted, but it really counts when it's local trusted messengers. Then the Census Bureau itself counts the population. They are enumerators. They are paid by the federal government to do that. So we have some parameters around that of where we can help, but we can certainly provide the surround sound to get people to respond. And then the Census Bureau releases the census results on December 31st of 2020. The count goes to the president, and then those apportionment data comes out, and then that's where we figure out if we gained, stayed steady, or lost a seat. And then on April 1st of 2021 is when the data comes back to the states, and Karin and her group and Vince and his group start to look at it for redistricting. All right, you guys have all seen this. I'm going to go ahead and skip through that. I wanted to provide this because there was some confusion. We've been going out across the state, regionally doing our convenings to identify trusted messengers, and there is some confusion about how is this thing going to be done online. And I can talk further about it, but really it's a mailing. They get a letter that says go online, and 8 days later, if you don't respond, you get another letter. So you never really get a form until really a month after you get that first letter. If you don't respond, you'll get a letter plus a questionnaire. And then if you don't respond to that in other days, you'll get another postcard saying it's not too late. And then almost a month after you get, or 6 weeks after you get that contact, that's when you start to be put on a list for non-response follow-up. So I just wanted to sort of clarify that. So that's all I'm going to talk about in terms of federal operations. You guys, I know, want to hear really about what we're doing at the state level. But I just wanted to make sure that just some of the basic stuff was out there. So because, we've done this in 2000 and 2010, and we've had varying degrees of success. 2000 was incredibly successful. We've used a lot of the lessons learned from 2000. Currently, the statewide readiness and needs assessment, I just want to say, Chairman Berman and Chairman Pan, these two staffers on either side of you have been just critical in getting the right people at these convenings, as well as there's a slew of other people behind them that have as well. We wouldn't have been able to do it without them. We've done 7 of the over 25 that we're going to do. We're going to do 4 additional tribal consultations as well, because as Director Baraba said, you have to go out. We were up in Ukiah, down in Kern. We're heading to Riverside tomorrow, Palm Desert. And in every place that we've been, it has been totally different in terms of what they're worried about, what their fears are, how they think they can get their local communities to respond. So it's been super important. As we did in 2000, 2010, a state agency working group, that's the low-hanging fruit. That's leveraging, EDD's got offices, they send out pay stubs, they can send out, DMV's got kiosks, they can send out as much communication as they want. So those are some of the other buckets of areas that we plan to do work, and I can answer more questions on that. I want to point out some of the issues, though. It is the first digital census, and the Census Bureau will tell you we're doing it because we're going to save paper. It's going to be easier for our back offices, but I think it's going to be a real pain. Honestly, we've heard up in Ukiah they don't have broadband in those areas. We've heard from rural areas, so significant. Even here in Yolo County, right? Significant challenges. Right. Even in urban areas, if you look at the California Broadband Council and how we map out broadband, we have significant areas that don't have really, dependable online access. We've talked about the lack of federal funding and the diversity, but I did want to talk about the governor's commitment. So I talked about a little bit of the challenges, which we can spend more time on, but let's talk about an opportunity. We have 2 huge opportunities, which is the governor, committed $10 million last year, and again, the proposed $40.3 million this time around, which we're going through hearings. That's an unprecedented $50 million. No one across the state, no one across the nation has ever committed that. We are ahead of the entire nation in doing this. And so I think we have some huge opportunities to leverage. The other thing I would say is engaged foundations and local jurisdictions, which we'll hear from later on today, are a great opportunity. Here's just the line items. You guys have that. We have our approach, and I'll just cruise through that, and you guys can. And then basically, I did want to touch on accountability and performance measures, because I know when you're doing any kind of large, state budgeting, people are really aware that they want to do that. So I just want to take a quick moment, Alyssa, if that's okay, to talk about this slide in terms of performance measures. So any of the dollars that are state dollars that are used will, of course, follow strict contract monitoring. Payments will be linked to satisfactory performance. Performance criteria and evaluation will be developed. We'll have regular reporting. We'll have on-site monitoring, sometimes announced, sometimes unannounced. And of course, they'll follow DGS's general terms and conditions. So these are taken straight from the state accountabilities. And I can talk about the regional convenings, but of course your staff has been there, but it really goes to what Director Baraba is talking about building that ground game, those trusted partners on the ground, and making sure that it's a local, state, and federal partnership. There's just a quick, you guys have that handout. We're really busy in the next 12 weeks. And here, this is how they feel it fit in. And there's just some critical success factors. But I will stop right there and answer any questions. I told you I could talk really fast. So.
Okay, well, thank you. And I know that in asking you, trying to cover all this, both of you, each in 5 minutes, I think is a very short amount of time. But I hope people will take time to look at the slides in more detail. Before I take questions from our members, I did just have one because we talked about budget. Our respective budget committees are meeting, Senate and Assembly. Certainly understand that the governor has a priority on the census. We talked in the beginning about actually how much money comes in from the census as well. Let me just throw out this question. For covered California, when we had to do the ACA, spent about $100 million to get out there, to get people to know, to get people signed up for health insurance. I know I've been hearing from some of the counties and cities and counties that they have a very important role in trying to help identify people as well as the persuasion part. Sometimes people are doing it kind of part-time as part of, in addition to their current jobs and so forth. In terms of, we're going to have to deal with many of these barriers. I know you said unprecedented, but I understand that the amount was actually because that was how much we spent in the previous census before. Why shouldn't we actually be investing a lot more in the census count? If Covered California needs over $100 million to do that, and we know we're still undercounting. Shouldn't the state be putting more money into it? Actually, the return is a very good one. So I'm going to ask that question because we're right now talking about our budget, and I think certainly the Senate and I know the Assembly are both interested in being sure we have the resources to truly get a complete count, and I know the governor does as well. But we think, given the scale of this, we should be allocating more resources and having that conversation about how to do that.
I'll start. I think that the governor's proposal is a very robust plan. It's over 50, in combination with last year's 10 million. It's 50 million. So that's twice the amount that was expended in the most successful year, which is 2000. I think we only had 24.7 million invested in 2000. And I think I know there will be ongoing negotiations on the final number. Whatever the legislature and the governor land on, I think the key principles here will be to make sure we have these strategies that we've laid out in terms of having trusted messengers that get funded, that we have a paid media strategy, that we have a strategy that incorporates local schools, and they play an important role in educating students about the census. We then educate their parents and communities. The local complete count committees also are incentivized to participate. We in our proposal understand that this is a multi-pronged strategy. We have to get a lot of folks to get on the same page as other folks have said today, to educate the state about the process and to motivate and then get folks to participate. So it's a heavy lift for California. We definitely understand that. This is really a 3-year operation, and so I think I think the interests are aligned, and these key strategies, I think, have to remain in play. And we look forward to seeing where things land. I know there are lots of different ideas right now that are being proposed about which strategies should get more funding versus others, but I think the combination is going to be very important.
And I will point out that in 2010, the state didn't have much funding at all, but many of the foundations that you're going to speak to today put up from their own coffers almost 9-10 million of their own. And so in the conversations I've been having over the last year with engaged foundations that previously done it, I kind of challenge them to go ahead and match whatever we do at the state. So you're going to be speaking to them a little bit later.
Well, and I appreciate it, and I think philanthropy has been stepping up, but I think the state can also do more, and I appreciate the plan, but I also think that especially if we're trying to reach out to more the trusted messengers, not all of them are going to have done audits every year and all this. So I appreciate the accountability piece, but I also wonder to what degree that also makes it harder for us to engage some of the trusted messengers in more disadvantaged communities and more marginalized communities as well. And so how we partner with our philanthropic and other nonprofit CBOs and so forth to really reach out. They're not the ones who are watching mainstream media. They may not even be the ones who are on social media. But we really take some significant resources to be able to get them, and also be sure we provide the supports at our at our local level as well. Our city and county partners as well, to be sure that they have the resources because they have a lot more of the local connections. So I just want to be sure we are positioning ourselves for that. Questions from committee members? Assemblymember Jones Sawyer.
So I also don't like to reinvent the wheel. So I also want to know what didn't work, because obviously that seems like an overview of what worked, but it didn't work in my community before. So besides me blaming my predecessor, I need to know specifically what I can do differently to get my numbers up. But more important, what we didn't do, or did we do a strategy we thought was going to work and it absolutely failed? Can you pinpoint with some specificity to each of our assembly districts what worked? Some this worked great for, and they're off the charts as far as success. But there's some that it didn't work for. So you can't give every district a kind of boilerplate, this is what will work in every district.
So I wish I would brought my report from 2000, but I was just looking at yesterday, and actually the areas that in 2000, we only invested in areas that were hard to count, that had a high undercount. And in the city of Compton, it had the highest increase of return rate. It was 16%, so it went up to 75%, so it's minus 16. And then Santa Ana also had a 14% increase, and El Monte had a 14% increase. I just remember those three because I wrote them down for yesterday's hearing. And that's where we actually invested on the ground. We put questionnaire assistants in there, and then the Department of Finance actually came back, the demographics research unit, and they did this analysis. So it's on our website, and so you can see city by city where the undercount was in 1990, where we invested in 2000, and the increase. So I know that was for 2000. So for 2010, we didn't do much because we didn't have any dollars. So that might be what you're referring back to, but we only had $2 million in 2010. And so we distribute it to the top 12 hardest to count counties, and then they distribute it from there.
I think that's what the chairs are getting to. Give us some rationale for why we need to put more money in this to get it done.
And I think just to add, both reports from 2000 2010 flagged the issue of starting too late as a lesson learned. Like the complete count committees, both times started. Like the 2000 started in November 1999, and the census was in April 2000. So just like 6 months to work with. And then in 2010, that complete committee started in June 2009. Again, just less than a year prior to the census. So there was very little time to strategize and deploy. So I think that was the key lesson learned for all of us, to get together sooner, work together more closely than we ever had before, because it is a mutual interest to all of us, and to strategize. And so I think we took that seriously, and we started with the LUCA process in building that, the local update for census addresses, in late 2016. So 4 years in advance of the census to start thinking about how to get the data on new housing in California. Another important lesson learned is to get 4 years in advance, get the ball rolling.
So, and I think another lesson learned would be the coordination with the U.S. Census Bureau, doing it earlier. We're ahead of the Census Bureau right now. They literally have like 4 partnership specialists across the state for California. And so we're so far ahead of them that they're kind of, trying to play catch up with us. And hopefully they'll hire people in November, this November.
So on that front, and Ditas, you mentioned this in your comments, but we'd asked somebody from the U.S. Census Bureau in D.C. to come out and speak with us today at the panel, and unfortunately they declined our invitation. So we hope that there'll be better coordination with them moving forward. But you also mentioned that they're quite behind. Just here in California, they're also quite behind in the entire process. What can we do to fill gaps that they're leaving? Unfortunately, they've run the census, and we can't take over that. But are if there are areas where you see that that they're not meeting their calendar and their timeline on things, make sure that you let us know if there are ways that we can support you to fill those gaps that they're likely going to leave in our communities. Any other colleagues? I've got a couple of comments and questions, but Yes. Oh, go for it. I know you've got to leave.
Yeah. So I guess the other question is that we talked about strategies that worked and didn't work. We certainly can look at previous census. There are some things that are different, the online. Is there some thought about doing practice runs or dry runs? I realize that given the information that we do have to test different strategies in different communities, because after all, practice, right? And then when the real thing comes, we're ready to go. So, is there some discussion about testing different strategies and doing some dry runs in different communities to see how different efforts may work out?
So right now we actually have a message testing coordination group that has many of the folks that you're going to come up and speak, and others that are already doing message testing out in the field. So that's really the first thing. And of course, we do it in waves. The first wave of message testing right now is going to be different than a year from now. So we are ahead. The U.S. Census Bureau is doing what they call CBAMs, Census Barriers, Attitudes, and Motivators. And of course, they're doing it nationally, and they have a few focus groups here. But they're not getting into the granularity that we need for our communities. So many of the partners we're already working with are doing that message testing. In terms of sort of dress rehearsal, we can't really dress rehearse the operations. One, we're not even sure what the questions are going to be because that hasn't been completed. I did do a beta test of the online internet self-response tool last April. The user experience left a lot to be desired. So I think in our convenings, we continue to talk about, we were up in Ukiah and Reading, they're like, how do I get an actual paper form? Like, it's great that it's online, but certain communities are like, I want a paper form. And so, they're being very creative to say, the Census Bureau will say, you can just call and answer your questionnaire on the phone. Well, I don't want to use up my minutes, but you can actually just call the 800 number and get them to send you a paper form. So we're starting to think about that, and we're having great conversations out in the community about what works in the community, because the answers come from what works in your communities. I can't make it up, you can't make it up, right? So it's super important to be out there.
So I'm really happy to hear that. That was one of the questions that I was going to ask, was around messaging and message testing. And so it sounds like that's happening, because if we're going to be spending, tens of millions of dollars on outreach and communication and kind of statewide messaging and different messaging to different communities, testing that ahead of time to figure out what actually gives people that security to participate, as opposed to just kind of guessing, is critically important. So it sounds like, folks are out in the field, they're testing messages, they're feeding that back up to you all.
Mm-hmm. They're sharing across organizations.
Okay, great. I know Dr. Pan emphasized the budget, and I just want to do that as well. I know that we don't want to be frivolous with our surplus, and so we're trying to spend surplus dollars on one-time expenditures. There is no one-time expenditure that's going to have a higher return on investment than the census. And you all know the numbers, but this will be billions of dollars per year for the next decade. If there's a large undercount. So just want to emphasize that. And I know we're all talking with our colleagues, including our colleagues on the budget committees, to push for as large of a dollar number as possible. And I think our CBO community, our nonprofit community, needs a little. I know this is just the first year, or really the second or third year, depending on who's been involved in a multi-year process. But the CBO community needs some certainty if they're going to make hires, that those are going to be people that are going to be on staff for 2 years or 2.5 years, as opposed to, just kind of the year-by-year budgeting that, having worked for a nonprofit, that I know that the nonprofit community typically does. So, we want to give them that certainty that there's going to be funding there for this effort through 2020. So, Ditas, you talked a bit about the conversations that have been happening at the regional meetings, and I know you're maybe 30 or 40% of the way through the number of meetings. Would it be possible, I don't want to create a lot of extra work, but for the select committees to get just an update when you hit that midway point or soon after the midway point of how those convenings are going, and if our district offices need to help more in driving the right people there. I mean, that's what we want to do, is we want to hear how it's going and then disseminate to our colleagues about how they can, make that experience more meaningful and better.
Our halfway point, we're on number 8 tomorrow, and so probably right after the June 1st, after we meet in Mountain View, we'll have a little bit of a breather. Actually, we had the 6th and the 7th. We'll have some time after June 6th and 7th but I'll tell you, your district offices have been great.
Great.
And, we're doing it in a short time frame because we're fast and furious, but they're getting the right people there.
Perfect. And anything else that either colleagues want to ask, or any other questions or things that you want us to know about? I know we rushed you through the slides.
No, thank you again for the partnership. We really, again, this is an all hands on deck
Absolutely.
task, so we really appreciate the collaboration.
And let me just quickly say before we move to the next panel, I've mentioned this at a couple of other conversations that Dr. Pan and I have had where, there's so much interest in our communities. I talked to my community health centers, and they want to participate and help out, and let their patients know. I talked to a workforce development nonprofit in the district, and I brought this up, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're going to that convening on June 1st in Mountain View," so they already knew about it, and they're planning to participate. My dream is for, by the time we get to April of 2020, every CBO, every local government agency, every library, every school has like a poster when you walk through the front door that says participate in the census, and it's designed, in kind of the right color and all this kind of stuff, so that it just becomes ubiquitous, and participating in the census isn't a scary thing. It's just something that, everybody thinks that everyone else is doing, and of course I should do that. And so let us know how we can support you all in achieving that goal of just making it like, obviously this is something I should do. I go get my flu shot, I go fill out the census.
I would separate those two messages.
True. Touche. But it's just kind of something that's
It's normal.
Normal,
yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So thank you all very much.
Thank you
you.
for having us.
Do we have? So we'd like to move on to the local government panel. Great, and we've got Dorothea Park, manager of the Chief Executive Office of the County of Los Angeles, and Carolyn Coleman, Executive Director of the League of California Cities and member of the California Complete Count Committee. Ready when you are. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Chairman Berman and members of the Census Select Committee. My name is Dorothea Park, representing Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. I'm the manager of the Census for Los Angeles County's Chief Executive Office, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to be part of today's conversation about preparing for the census. While federal and state funds are determined and distributed in large measure by census-derived data, ultimately it is local governments, through their diverse workforce of hundreds of thousands of employees and robust infrastructure, that provide the on-the-ground delivery system. We provide the essential programs and services for all our residents. Furthermore, it is local government that has the capacity to organize and partner with all levels of government, agencies, as well as key community stakeholders to promote participation in the census. So how is Los Angeles County taking on this monumental task? Well, first, we are the first out of the gate. We're here to give you a snapshot of our efforts to date. We started with the creation of 3 complete count committees. One that focuses on counties' region-wide efforts, and then 2 other complete count committees that focus on county census-derived federally funded program areas. Currently, the countywide outreach CCC that we co-lead with the City of Los Angeles has become a dynamic, ever-growing, and diverse partnership that includes several subcommittees. The first committee that we organized was our stakeholder committee, that we participate at a community table that the Census Policy Advocacy Network pulled together with their partners, their 15 partners, and we focus on a broad range of ethnic communities, as well as the LGBTQ community, low-income populations, children, those living with disabilities, seniors, and the homeless. With the recent addition of the citizenship status question, the focus on our immigrant populations are becoming paramount. We've joined with the city And we are sponsoring with NALEO a convening on immigration tomorrow, as well as we've had a convening with the Latino Community Foundation. Also, the county's Immigration Task Force has added the census as a focus area initiative for themselves. Another subcommittee, which is huge, are our municipalities. In a county with 88 cities and 140 unincorporated areas, we had to come to grips with a forum that would allow for meaningful conversations and engaging ideas. We're utilizing our 6 councils of government and an Antelope Valley Consortium as an avenue to reach our city mayors, city managers, and city planners that will be invested in the census. Another subcommittee is higher education. Higher education has a particularly unique challenge and opportunities. Students represent one of the lowest response populations countywide. So we brought together higher education institutions, including USC, UCLA, Loyola Marymount, Mount St. Mary's, Occidental College, the state colleges, and the community colleges. And we've included both administrators and students to discuss and explore a wide range of solutions, including using college addresses as the residence address for homeless students. Some of our community colleges represent 30% of their student body is homeless. They're living either on couches, couch surfing, or in cars, vehicles. We are looking at providing internship or volunteer credit for students to engage them as Census Goodwill Ambassadors. We're utilizing student government, fraternities and sororities, counselors and faculties as messengers, including the census as part of the online class registration. So they have to opt into the census and respond. When they go to register their vehicles for parking, which is important to students, especially at some of our campuses, they too will have to see and participate and be a part of the messaging of the census. We're taking all of the online portals and websites that the universities have and taking advantage of that. We're talking about creating friendly competitions through the arts and working with departments that educate future nurses, public health administrators, and social workers to consider a module in their lectures. And we're also partnering with the U.S. Census Bureau to provide job opportunities, which are critical for, especially in our community colleges and LA Trade Tech and areas such as that. Our next partner that we've been working with, that we just started with, is LA Unified School District. This district reaches over 500,000 students between K through 12, and we have 31 of our cities that are supported by that school district. They also have adult programs and preschool programs. This is an enormous infrastructure that we can utilize in our outreach efforts. We're looking at expanding their We Are One LA Unified campaign, which they've used for their DACA students, to include the census as well as other district-wide educational and programmatic efforts, along with the student and parent Census Goodwill Ambassador volunteer opportunities. The city, the county, and the school district have already agreed to schedule a half-day workshop in June to brainstorm ideas around census outreach. And that includes how we will expand to other school districts beyond LA Unified. We also have 2 important programs that we are really advocating. One is census action kiosks. We plan to ask departments and agencies to set aside space in public facilities to allow for the setup of a census action kiosk where the public can visit and fill out online census surveys. You may have heard that the question assistance centers that the federal government provided last go around are going to be transformed into just mobile units. We're talking about not having somebody have to respond to a mobile unit between 2 and 4, and we're fine with mobile units, but also have a stationary location within the community that they can reach. We also are asking that volunteers, Goodwill Census ambassadors, be trained to officially assist with outreach and answer questions. The county has numerous volunteer programs. We intend to tap into those, as well as we mentioned earlier, the students. We've also talked to our unions. They've expressed a strong interest in engaging in the county census planning process. And our first meetings with the unions, they're competing right now to get to me first, but they'll be in June. I promise them. And then we also held a hackathon that the city and the county, as part of the LA City Public Library's Digital Inclusion Week, it drew people from throughout the county, and we even had virtual participation from the country of Colombia. And they spent the day with us looking at creating opportunities for residents to respond to the census. And the winning team developed a series of apps for the census action kiosks. The county also has the two other complete count committees. Health and Human Services is one, and the other is Transportation, with the primary responsibility of messaging around the broad spectrum of county programs offered to county residents that are funded through federal and state revenues, to answer the question, why? Why am I filling out the census? And it's critical for residents, and why it's critical for them as residents to participate. Finally, we will be supporting the state census operation and look forward to attending the convenings that will be in LA County, and we hope to add an extra one for our residents in the Antelope Valley. That's a plug. All of these efforts will require accountability from our partners. Government agencies are currently preparing, right now, objectives and strategy plans based on analysis of low response score block groups utilizing the county's mapping tool. So the Census Bureau has a mapping tool at the census tract level. We developed one at the block group level so that we can get more detailed information. We also have quarterly status work plans that identify activities that we're going to be working on, the challenges we're facing, status and next steps as we approach the census. We roll out, and then we plan to roll out activity and event calendars. All of these planning documents have been shared with the U.S. Census Bureau, who they are using those materials to train the rest of the counties in the state. I want to move on because of time here. And in closing, all of these efforts and partnerships require resources. So we encourage your support of the county's request for increased funding. For local complete count committees, our anticipated need alone is minimally $12 million to carry out the strategies and work plans and outreach campaign in addressing, especially in addressing the citizenship question. Based on the county's 2010 best practices and current planning experience, it's the county's position that we must be inclusive and open to the broadest range of partners that are eager to participate in counting each and every resident of the state of California. There is no one single government agency or stakeholder that can take on this enormous task alone, and it is imperative that we all work and share ideas, new concepts, and approaches to reach and ultimately serve all of our deserving California residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Coleman.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Carolyn Coleman. I serve as the Executive Director of the League of California Cities and a proud member of the Complete Count Committee. Thank you for the time today. As we've heard this morning already, a fair and accurate census is important for many reasons. First, it helps support our political representation in Washington, which is ever important, and it also serves as the basis for the formulas that are used to return our dollars back to California cities. And I want to talk about just one of those programs today and really sort of hit home on why this matters so much to local governments. A good example is the Community Development Block Grant Program, otherwise known as CDBG. I know I have some former local officials on this panel who are very familiar with that program. CDBG dollars go to cities with at least 50,000 in population and counties over 200,000. They receive a direct allocation of the CDBG funds, and for the smaller jurisdictions, there is a set-aside at the state. In 2017 alone, the state of California and our cities and counties received nearly $350 million in CDBG funding from the federal government through the various channels. And that amounts to about 10% of the total amount of CDBG that the federal government allocated, period, in the country. So $350 million is what it's worth to us annually. This program is the most flexible form of assistance that cities and counties receive. It is used to support affordable housing, homelessness prevention, workforce development programs, energy efficiency initiatives, as well as job training programs, which I know are all important priorities for the state and our local governments. And for these reasons, city officials are very keen and do recognize the important role that they play in the census undertaking. We're also keenly aware at the local level, as my colleague has referred to, some of the new vulnerabilities associated with this year's census. New questions, new technology in place, as well as in this state, the housing crisis, which can make addresses very, very difficult. That will only make it more challenging and more important that our resources are coordinated so that we have a robust, out-of-the-box approach to counting everyone in 2020. So what role will cities play? First, through the Local Update of Census Addresses Program, or LUCA, as you've heard, cities will help make sure the federal government has the best addresses that we can provide at the local level so everyone can be counted. And with new housing developments and hopefully more that are in the pipeline, our role in helping the federal government understand these addresses and where they are will be very important. Second, city officials can help educate and raise the awareness by their residents of the importance of the census, encourage them to respond via questionnaire, by dialing an 800 number and getting a form, and the many other ways that we've heard shared today. And then finally, I want to speak on behalf of the League. Similar to what we did in 2010, the League will be using its various media channels and its regional public affairs network to serve as a conduit of information to city officials around the state regarding the effort. And we know what you know is that every city is different, every region is different, and we want to be sure to get the best ideas out there and let them tailor the solutions to fit their communities. In closing, California cities look forward to partnering with the state, with the federal government, with the partners who you will hear from us shortly, and others, to make sure that all Californians are counted, that we're only counted once, and that we're counted in the right place. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Coleman. I want to open it up to colleagues for any questions or comments they have. Everyone's gotten shy. Well, I have a couple of questions and comments. Ms. Coleman, you mentioned the importance of cities and also the LUCA process. And I had an experience with one of my cities in my district where I instructed my district staff to reach out to all the cities and city managers to let them know about the LUCA process and how important it is. And then I'd found out, I kind of heard that one of my cities had declined to participate. At first, they said they were going to, and then when some of the council members heard, wait a second, city staff are going to be walking through neighborhoods with clipboards, counting, looking over people's fences and counting, the different types of untraditional housing units that might exist, that scared them. And rightfully so. I mean, at this day and age, some of these neighborhoods, a lot of those residents are going to have a lot of fear if they see somebody, looking through fences and kind of making notes. And they were worried, is that information going to be used for code enforcement and maybe some other things? And so what kind of communication have you been doing? And that was as much my fault as anybody's for not reaching out. I quickly called some of the council members to explain to them, the process, how important it was, and the safety of that information. But has the league been, trying to push information and making sure really that people are paying attention? Because I know when I was on a city council, we get inundated with info, and sometimes you don't know what's important and what isn't. So maybe tell us a little bit about some of those efforts.
Absolutely, and all the information that we'll be sending you on the census will be important.
Yeah, I agree.
To receive. You raised some good points, Chairman, and The League has been pushing out information to our members to help them understand that the LUCA process is underway, to talk with them about who they can connect with and contact about how to participate and what kind of resources are available to help them do that. But I'll be honest with you, you raise a very good point in terms of this whole notion of trust in government. And I think we have more work to do to help not only educate folks about the mechanics of the process, but also the importance of the data, how it will be used and how it will not be used.
Yeah.
So we've got more work to do there.
Please, Zagiwara Curry.
Yeah, it just dawned on me. One of the things is like all the members. What about the non-member cities? And is there a way that we can help reach out in some way? Because we know that there's plenty that do not participate in the League of California Cities. And have you thought of or some ideas that how we might be able to do so? I'm concerned about some of my rural areas. They always say, we never get anything. Well, you don't get anything if you're not at the table, and they don't want to be there. So has there been any discussion on what we do about non-member cities?
We have a handful of non-member cities that we certainly can identify and supplement the outreach to them. But I think the point you raise also speaks to maybe the non-engaged member, that person who doesn't open the 10th email or the 20th email that might come to them. We have not cited any specific strategies yet to better engage them, but I assure you that it's going to be on my list following this hearing. It's a good point.
And if there's a way to let all of us know which cities in our districts aren't members, I don't know what the best way to do that would be. We can then reach out to them also, because I didn't even realize that. I mean, that's a great point. Where if they're not on the list, they're not getting the info, and we can push that info out to them then through our contacts.
Absolutely, and happy to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I mentioned the regional public affairs network that's in place at the League. So besides the resources physically here in Sacramento, we have resources in what we have divided up 16 regions across the state who are more familiar and will be more familiar with who's responding, who's engaged, and who do we need to reach, and can certainly reach out to your district offices to help make you aware as well.
Great.
I think we have to agree that there's other organizations, not just but CSAC, the county should be reaching out. Everyone should be working together. But I just always have some of these cities that are just non-respondents.
Well, I look forward to you helping us help them.
Ms. Park, you talked about a lot of and I was really heartened to hear about how creative L.A. County is getting, or county and city, it sounds like, and the coordination between the two. Are there plans? How can we share that information? Share some of those plans once you find out what's working and what's not. How can we selfishly take advantage of that to share it to the other 57 counties across the state?
So what we've done is provide the U.S. Census Bureau with all of our different templates that we're using in establishing objectives and strategies, how to do a work plan, and how to set that up, and also how to develop activity sheets for down the road when we actually start rolling out events at parks and libraries and throughout the county, so that we don't have scheduling conflicts and we make sure we're filling the gaps. So basically that is one major way that we're doing. We're just basically sharing everything with the U.S. Census Bureau, who's in turn training. I think they've trained a few counties already, and they probably have other training templates that they're using. But we've been giving anybody who wants our information. It's available to them.
Perfect. When you share that information with the U.S. Census Bureau, do me a favor and copy Adidas. And sorry for that unsolicited plug, but that's great. Yeah, because we definitely want to make sure that a lot of the counties don't have the resources that LA County has, and don't have the history of working on the census that's so important. And so we definitely want to take as much advantage of the good work that you're doing as possible. And then to the extent, I know that our next panel is going to be on community-based organizations and foundations, but maybe, if you guys want to tell us a little bit how, if you're working with foundations or CBOs, and how we can help those efforts, or kind of what plans you have.
So CPAN has included us at the community table and they've been having regional tables to develop their general plan, which they'll be discussing a little bit later. And the other thing that we're working with them on, as well as others, is identifying gaps. So they are looking at, we're literally going block by block group to identify what coverage they can handle. We don't want folks over-promising and under-delivering at the end of the day. There are school districts that can help out, like I said, unions, county employees. So we're looking at their capacity, what's within their capacity, and then how we can help fill the gaps. So it's a complete picture and a complete way of attacking the effort and the campaign. So that's really our primary effort right now, is we're trying to work with them as they develop more and more of their general plan and how they want to approach outreach, and figuring out with them. We send them lists of CBOs that we obtain from our board offices, from the community members, and they're not all going to be the perfect fit, and they also have a lot of they're committed to other things like get out the vote. So there's going to be limitations, and that's why we have to all be pitching in together. But we are very much working together.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
And I would just add, for the league, similar to what we did in 2010, we worked with a number of community partners that for the 2020 census, we will reinvigorate those relationships and work across the state.
Perfect.
And we'll look forward to it.
Dr. Weber.
Yes, a quick question. You mentioned $12 million for the project in L.A. County, and that, I guess that's for the total project itself, all the way up until
Right. Well,
2020.
that's minimally what we're looking at right now, and we just had originally thought it was going to be around $8.7 million, but with the immigration question, we're thinking we're going to need to increase that to do a more robust outreach and working both on the air and on the ground within government agencies and partnering with our other CBO partners.
And that $12 million is coming from where? As a member of the budget committee,
Yes, we're asking that. That's what we're seeking from the state.
$12 million.
Yes.
And this is in addition to the 50.
Well, yes.
Or is this part of the 50? That's what I was trying to figure out. How this all works together.
So it sounds like LA County, just for LA County, is looking for $12 million, which would come out of that 50 or whatever that final amount is. So some of us want much more than 50.
So
the current. So just to put it in
desire.
Just the current perspective is that the governor's proposed budget has $1 million statewide for the first year and $2 million statewide for the second year. And what we're saying is that $3 million is not going to be enough. It's not going to be sufficient to do to address LA County in particular, and probably other counties as well. But certainly for LA County, it's not going to allow us to do as robust an effort as we'd like to.
Has there been a and maybe it is somewhere, I haven't seen it in the budget yet. Has there been a budget ask that goes beyond the 50? And I'm saying this because everybody's throwing these numbers around, and there doesn't seem to be a coordinated request that includes all of the counties, all of the numbers. I mean, this stuff, we're doing this afternoon, really. So I'm trying to figure out what's really the cost and the expectation from the state, for the various groups that are participating. And we heard 50 and some other number, I can't remember. And I'm just trying to figure, is it 12 in the 50, or there's 12 in addition to the 50, or what's the number?
Yeah, so I think we are still trying to get a good sense of exactly what that overall, through 2020 need is in terms of a dollar figure. And I know, I think there was a proposal on the Assembly side for $67 million, which I think was identified in the kind of budget document as 1/3 of the total needed. So the total was going to be $200 million was what they'd identified, but only funding 1/3 of it at this stage. That is still being discussed in the budget committee.
Yeah.
So this is a live conversation that I think you all will be having more over this week. Yes, please.
Actually, I have a history question. So in 2000, the city of Los Angeles had a census czar. Jan Perry, and she did it for where did anybody know where the funding came for that? Because I believe we had the C of LA had a real robust program, and we put a lot of energy and effort into it. And I never knew how it was funded. I thought it came from the general fund, but I'm not.
It may have. I'm not familiar with this, how the city funded the budget for
2000.
I mean, one of the great things that's happening this time is the city and county are actually partnered together. And whereas in the last census, I think the city had its roadmap and the county had its roadmap. So one of the positive things that's going on now is we are partnered. But I'm not familiar with what the city budget was. I do know that the state allocation to the County of Los Angeles in 2010, I think it was around $430,000 for all 88 cities, for us to share with all 88 cities. So it was a fairly small allocation, and that was due to the fact that the state was in a recession. So.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Pan did a great job of keeping us on time, and then as soon as he handed it over to me, we went off track.
Sorry.
But no, this is great. I really appreciate the conversation. So we'll move on to the next group. Thank you so much, which is the community-based organizations and foundations. And first we have Daniel Zingali, Senior VP of Healthy California at the California Endowment, John Dobard, Census Policy Advocacy Network and Associate Director of Political Voice at the Advancement Project California, Andrea Guerrero, Executive Director of Alliance San Diego, and Daniel Ichinase, Project Director, Demographic Research Project at Asian Americans Advancing Justice Los Angeles. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Sure. And Mr. Zingali, if you want to kick us off.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you. So the reason I'm sitting in this chair is because I'm from the California Endowment, Daniel Zingali, but there is no California Census Foundation. So other foundations like ours is a health foundation, have to kind of figure out how we interrupt our normal course of budgeting and business every 10 years to try to step up as best we can to partner with you all on this. And when we debated this at our board this year, as a health foundation, obviously we're concerned about federal resources, about California's representation, but fundamentally the board recognized that there's nothing more important to people's health than their sense of agency or belonging. We actually went to the dictionary and looked at the word count, and you see things like assigning worth or deserving of consideration. And the opposite of count, you find words like to exclude or count out. So when we discussed this as a senior leadership and board, the thought of 14 million people in California, 14 million Californians being counted out poses a very serious threat to the health of the people of California and to the health of our state. Just to give you a little bit of flavor of that, there are folks here with more expertise than I have, but a million of those at risk for being undercounted are Black Californians, 5 million are Latino, 200,000 are Native Americans. So these are obviously populations who are at high risk for disparate health outcomes and populations that we have to be concerned about. I wanted to say that I'm glad members earlier mentioned the ACA and the Covered California effort, because we think that there are some parallels there that really you can't find in previous census. Frankly, in previous census, we had what were perceived as good faith partners in D.C. But when the ACA launched in California, it was a very toxic political environment. You all remember the death panels and other negativity. So we had to overcome a lot of that, even here in California, among people's perceptions. And it took a Herculean effort. The endowment alone spent $100 million on outreach and education to counter some of that negativity and get people to sign up. And for the most part, it was a successful effort. But I did like your question earlier, Mr. Jones-Sawyer, about what didn't work. And so I was thinking about that in terms of the ACA as well. And a couple of things came to mind. You know, we were very excited at the launch of that effort that we convinced Dr. Oz to make an ad for us. You know, we'd done all the message testing, persuasive messages and messengers, and he was off the charts at that time. And, you know, to his credit, he flew out. He had never taken a position on the ACA to that point. He made the ad. But what we discovered over the course of that effort is that there were things that were far more effective. For example, the multi-ethnic media investments we made produced more, and some unconventional things, to go to some of the questions earlier. The money we put into barbershop networks, the dollars that we put into a wrestlers association on YouTube, some very unconventional things ended up delivering some surprising results. I thought that's what you were talking about. The last thing I'll mention, and I think you were so wise to have Director Baraba here. I learned a lot, Director, from hearing the history. But what really stood out for me was the importance of trusted messengers and how that hasn't changed over the decades. And so I'm honored to be surrounded here by today's trusted messengers. I'm not sure any of them would call themselves the Bobby Seale of today, but they are the folks who communities trust. And one of the main lessons from our ACA effort was that our investments in the in-person community-based organizations is really what delivered the results. We believe that will be the case again. And we stand ready to be partners with the state, although I want to remind you that a lesson from ACA was when the state stepped up and showed that you were serious and would make a robust investment, that's really what brought philanthropy along. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dobard.
Good morning, Chairman Berman, members of the committee, staff. Thanks for having me here today and for your interest in ensuring that the state of California does what it can to achieve a fair and accurate count of our state's population in the 2020 census. My name is John Dobard, and I'm the Associate Director of the Political Voice Program at Advancement Project California, which is a multiracial civil rights organization that works alongside community partners to transform public institutions and shift investments to achieve racial equity. I'm here today as a representative of Advancement Project California and the Census Policy Advocacy Network, or CPAN. CPAN is a collaborative effort among multiple organizations across the state of California to educate policymakers and community leaders about the sound policies and government investments needed for a complete count of our state. We're a diverse coalition of groups that has deep experience working with hard-to-count populations in our state, such as African Americans, Asian Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, LGBTQ people, American Muslims, people with disabilities, children, immigrants, and people experiencing homelessness. As other speakers have mentioned, the 2020 census will be unlike any other in our country's history, and the state of California faces many challenges in trying to achieve an accurate count. Achieving that count and overcoming those challenges is going to require that we build a robust outreach infrastructure and that we take a multi-sector approach to encouraging and educating Californians, especially what CPAN estimates is a minimum of 14.7 million hard-to-count Californians, encouraging and educating them to participate in the census. Community-based organizations, or CBOs, are going to play a vital role in that multi-sector effort, and that role will be to serve as trusted messengers. As trusted messengers, CBOs will, one, educate community residents about the census, two, validate census-related messages from the government, three, assist community residents in understanding the questionnaire, and four, overall, alleviate anxiety about responding to the questionnaire or Census Bureau enumerators. CBOs will do this through targeted outreach campaigns campaigns that are going to be in very specific geographies, targeting very specific populations. And they will reach these populations through various activities such as door-to-door canvassing, digital campaigns through smartphones, social media messages, serving as locations and staffing for assistance centers or kiosks, material development in language, and train-the-trainer activities. So multiple activities that CBOs will be engaged in. These CBO campaigns will not only alleviate anxiety about the census among hard-to-count residents, they'll also enable counties and cities to be more strategic about their own outreach. Where CBOs and nonprofit infrastructure are present and well-resourced to do outreach, counties and cities potentially have less to do and can direct more intensive agency outreach to areas where such organizations and infrastructure don't exist. This type of coordinated approach is already underway in LA County, and we hope to see more of it in other areas of the state. Such an approach is the best way for California to overcome the challenges that we face in this unprecedented census and receive the federal funding and congressional representation we deserve. Thank you, and I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Ms. Guerrero.
Good morning, Chairman Berman, members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Andrea Guerrero. I'm the Executive Director of Alliance San Diego, a community empowerment organization in San Diego County working to create a more inclusive democracy, and part of the way that we do that is making sure that everyone feels counted. San Diego, as you may know, is the second largest county in California. It's the second largest electorate in California. It's also the second largest hard-to-count area in California. It's a diverse area that includes a number of refugees and as well as immigrants. There are more than 100 languages spoken. We are the largest refugee resettlement county in the country. We also have the dubious distinction of being the largest county, or we're the county that saw the largest drop in the male participation rate between 2010 and 2020. I'll say that again. San Diego County saw the largest drop in participation between 2010 and 2020. We want it, yeah, between 2000 and 2010.
We're going to bring it up in 2020.
That's right. That's right. We do want to bring it up, which is why it's going to be very important when you're allocating resources to make sure that San Diego within the state of California has its fair share. We know that there was a concentration of effort last round in the Bay Area and in Los Angeles, and rightly so. But we want to make sure that San Diego is not forgotten in the equation, because as you rightly pointed out, Chairman Berman, the return on investment is significant, and we don't want to cut our investment short in San Diego. So some of the challenges that we have faced in San Diego in the conducting the census in 2010 was the challenge of the fear faced by immigrant communities. In San Diego, as in California, 1 in 4 residents are estimated to be foreign-born immigrants, and they often live in mixed-status families. I am among those. Those families include citizens, legal residents, and undocumented individuals. When you have a mixed-status family, you are very hesitant to disclose who's in your house. And then there's also fear about confidentiality, how the information is going to be used. That extends beyond the immigrant community to the formerly incarcerated community, to the homeless community, and others. And so we know that these challenges are going to be exacerbated going into 2020 with the rhetoric from this administration. So what did we do in 2010 that we thought worked? Well, we did get resources from the California Endowment. Thank you very much. And we were able to conduct outreach to roughly 16,000 people in the area to encourage their participation. These were in hard-to-count areas of our county. We also ran bus ads, and I want to lift that up, because bus ads through high-density areas with hard-to-count populations was a great way to elevate the awareness in the population. Now, if we didn't have to spend our money to do that, or your money, as it were, but if we had state resources or local resources to pay for those sorts of activities, that would be grand. And so we were highly effective in doing our outreach to the community, and that was because of one reason and one reason only, and that's because we have a relationship of trust with that community. That's been said over and over again here, but our organization and others like ours, our value added in this equation is the relationship of trust that we have, and so it's going to be critical to partner with us early as you can. But I do want to mention that the resources in San Diego were not enough. We know that there was a concerted effort to get a complete count, but as I mentioned before, we had the largest drop in participation from one census to the next. And so if you were to ask me what you should do going forward, I would say what you're already doing, and that is to start early, invest more, and make sure that you're working with trusted partners in all of the hard-to-count areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chinose.
Thank you, Chairman, and distinguished members of both committees. My name is Danny Chinose, and I direct the Demographic Research Project and Census Information Center at Asian Americans Advancing Justice Los Angeles, the nation's largest legal and civil rights organization serving Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Founded nearly 35 years ago, Advancing Justice has helped lead decennial census outreach efforts targeting our communities since 1990, serving as a hub for a statewide network of diverse community partners working to encourage response during the 1990, 2000, and 2010 censuses. The decennial census is important to Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in ways that it's important to all Californians. It's critical to our political participation and our fair share of federal, state, and local funds. For communities such as ours, experiencing rapid growth, census data are also an important tool to ensure that public and private programs both understand and are responsive to our diverse populations. According to the most recent Census Bureau estimates, there are over 6.6 million Asian Americans and nearly 355,000 Pacific Islanders statewide. No state is home to more Asian Americans, and only the state of Hawaii is home to more Pacific Islanders. These large populations are California's fastest growing. Since the 2010 census, no communities have grown faster. That growth is being driven by immigration. Approximately 60% of Asian Americans, 60, and 20% of Pacific Islanders are foreign-born. So no community is proportionally more foreign-born than Asian Americans. Our overwhelmingly immigrant communities are ethnically, culturally, and linguistically diverse, facing challenges with language barriers. So all this makes our communities hard to count. To ensure a complete count of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders statewide, we need to do things like, one, develop and test messages, recognizing that no one message will work for all our communities. Two, develop and translate outreach materials and PSAs, which we know will be critical to engaging our communities. And three, subgrant to and train community organizations who will engage communities as trusted messengers, as folks have identified. But most critically, all of this needs to be done in dozens of Asian and Pacific Islander languages. And I wanted to flag for both committees that the Census Bureau currently does not have plans to produce any 2020 census resources in Pacific Islander languages. So that's 0. And we know that the Pacific Islander community was one of the hardest to count in 2010. In closing, while we believe that community partnerships are critical to the success of the 2020 census, we also understand the importance of accountability. Obviously, we want partners in the community, not behind a desk dealing with burdensome reporting requirements, but accountability is nothing new to those of us who have been doing this work. Clear and quantifiable deliverables are important. Processes for information gathering that allow for shifts in the work to address changing conditions and emerging issues are important. Structuring subgranting to community partners in installments maintains engagement. So thanks so much for the opportunity to speak with you this morning and for your leadership on this critical issue. We look forward to working with you to count every Californian. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any questions from colleagues? So I guess, our CBOs and our philanthropic community are going to be so critically important to success in this effort. And I've had multiple conversations over the last couple of days with the philanthropic community, and we'll have more later today. And Mr. Chinose, you rightfully mentioned the importance of accountability, but not too overly onerous regulation. I guess maybe this isn't a fair question to ask, but what's the best way to ensure that? And given that there's going to be money being spent by the philanthropic community, which historically has relationships with different CBOs in the community, and then the state government's going to be spending more than we ever have before on outreach and communication effort, including funding local efforts through CBOs. Do any of you have any ideas on what the best way is to execute on that and make sure that the money's spent effectively?
One important piece will be the administrative CBO piece, which so in 2000 the state contracted with administrative CBOs that then subcontracted to local CBOs.
Gotcha.
And those administrative CBOs had a large responsibility for monitoring what the local CBOs are doing and also distributing the money. So for 2020, that's certainly one way to ensure that that's the case. Given the scale and the amount we're talking about, the number of administrative CBOs would need to be larger, but just having those in place would be one key piece.
Got it. Makes sense.
And that's particularly important, I think, for Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. Many of our partners who will be doing work on the ground are smaller, right? I mean, these are smaller organizations serving smaller communities, but really critical voices in those communities. So how do we make sure that, we have things like clear deliverables, quantifiable deliverables, but also not onerous reporting responsibilities that that these smaller organizations may be challenged with. So,
I know when I was development director for a nonprofit, we just didn't even bother trying to get government grants because the application process was so unwieldy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can also look to layering on to existing grant structures that you already have, for example, through the One California grant process, through the California Department of Social Services. There is already a tapestry of organizations that are getting grant funding to do immigrant outreach, and that is one of the hardest communities to reach. And so, and that's also a model for accountability that's less onerous than some of the other grant structures that the state has. That might be something to look at.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I will say from the philanthropic perspective, we think a lot about this.
Yeah.
Don't get carried away. With the evaluation piece, or exaggerate how reliable you really think that is. But our confidence is boosted by the fact that you all have someone like Ditas and Daniel and others who have a history of experience. They know the importance of course correcting as you go. They know the value of keeping count, so you can actually watch in real time where things are succeeding and not, and make course corrections. But again, just my advice to you coming from our sector is, don't get too obsessive about putting these organizations through lots of formal evaluations and constant reporting, because then that takes away from actually getting the job done.
Sure. It kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Anything else that you think we should know about at this stage? I know we're going to be having lots of conversations as we move forward, and make sure that we do get the resources to distribute across the state, including down to San Diego. San Diego has some pretty good representatives here in the legislature that are going to make sure that happens.
Yes, I think they will.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And so we're going to move on to public comment, and we didn't do a sign-in sheet, so if you want to make public comment, just please come to the microphone in the middle. If you can keep your comments to about 1 minute per person, that would be very appreciated as we get back on track. And if you just say your name and if you're representing an organization, what organization, that would be great.
Hi, Mr. Chair and members. Julie Snyder, representing Housing California. We are a member of CPAN, the Census Policy Advancement Network, or Advocacy Network, sorry, as well as the California Complete Count Committee. This is an incredibly important effort from our perspective because a number of the people we serve are among the hardest to count. So, for example, people without a fixed address, as you can imagine, sending a postcard does not necessarily reach them. Sending a second postcard is not going to reach them. So we're involved in this effort to make sure that those folks are counted. You know, California has the highest homeless population in the country. We want to make sure that's recognized. As well, we serve a number of residents for whom English is a second language, who also come from countries as refugees where the government is not highly trusted. So again, we're very pleased to be part of this effort to make sure everybody is counted. We strongly support CPAN's budget request and appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Andrew Medina with Asian Americans Advancing Justice California, also a member of CPAN in strong support of a budget request. We're really grateful for the governor for a robust proposal for January, but with the introduction of a citizenship question, a lot of fears within the Muslim community about a Muslim registry. We're really pushing for an increase of that $12.5 million for CBO funding to go to $107 million. We're joined with about 92 organizations who are also in support of the request. So thank you for the robust discussion about the trusted messengers, because we know that's going to be really vital for a complete count. Thank you.
Thank you.
Josefina Ramirez Natsana with Children Now. We're also a member of CPAN, and in the 2010 census, 2.2 million children were undercounted. So we want to stress the importance of families with young children who have additional stresses, that the outreach and education to ensure that every child, every infant is counted, and strong support of the budget request that CPAN has made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm Santosh Siram Santana, representing Chinese for Affirmative Action. We are a community-based civil rights organization in San Francisco's Chinatown. And since our founding in 1969, we have been involved in every decennial census for the past 5 decades. So that experience has taught us a lot. And one main thing is that Census 2020 will be won or lost at the local level. So it's really key that community-based organizations be funded robustly to do this work, and that there is a language access plan for the hard to reach that prioritizes our limited English proficient population. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Michael Radigan, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of Santa Clara County, I want to thank you for having this hearing. It was very, very helpful, and indicate, as you know, the county's commitment to this effort. In fact, the Board of Supervisors has committed $1 million of their general fund this year to the effort, with obviously more coming in the following years. So to the extent that the legislature can see to increase the amount of money available beyond the governor's request would be most appreciated. And we're going to be following up with a letter to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Joe Michael for Equality California. We're also a member of CPAN and want to state our support of the budget request that has already been submitted, and also just state that LGBTQ people are part of all of the communities that are being counted, and although LGBTQ people are only being counted in a limited way in the census, we definitely want to make sure that the community is represented, and that folks are engaging with the census. So that's part of how we see our involvement in the outreach efforts, and want to make sure that the count is as complete as possible for everyone in California. So thank you for taking time to hear everyone today.
Thank you.
Hi, Ingram, ACLU of California. I want to align my comments with CPAN and their budget request and encourage a robust investment in community-based organizations who are trusted messengers to do this critical census outreach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, committee members watching, Noep Adamo, California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation. We serve low-income, marginalized, disadvantaged farm worker communities throughout the state, particularly in the Central Valley. This was a rich conversation. Thank you to all the presenters today. Learned a lot. Sierra Leone Foundation, particularly our Fresno office, attended the Fresno regional convening. I'm in Modesto, so I'll be attending the one there in Stanislaus County. But a couple of takeaways we had from the regional convening and also learning today is that our Central Valley region, where we have farm workers, we have all our issues there. It's a vast area. We have geographic isolation, language access issues, is that we're going to need accurate and verifiable information. We're going to have to make sure that we have confidential and privacy rights are secured. We need to have the uniform messaging that has been discussed today, particularly as we look at lack of internet access and also the language barriers. Specifically, we need more verifiable information, advice and guidance regarding legal rights. Our constituents or residents are asking for that information all through this period right now and leading up to when the census will happen. So we're going to need that resources to address those on the ground. And also, what the California state government's going to do to help us address those issues with regards to questions and the apparatus that's put in place. And then finally, we need to also be sure to synchronize the city, county, and the state's efforts as we go forward. There are particular concerns that if we don't do that, then we'll miss out on our communities being counted. We're already seeing in the Central Valley a couple of towns, cities have supported the so-called sanctuary city lawsuit. So that's already creating a barrier, because how are our residents, our hard-to-reach communities, language-isolated communities going to be able to trust that city? So these cities need to know not only to work on the count, but also we need to work with them to address that they need to also be part of this solution to get our residents these legal advice and guidance that they deserve. So all this taken into account, we look forward to supporting the additional funding we're going to need for outreach and education to reach our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephen Keppel, representing Univision. We're here on behalf of our Hispanic audiences, particularly the Spanish speakers and the 5 million Latino Californians that are in hard-to-count communities. Many of these people are members of the core Univision audience and consumers of other Spanish language media. So we know that that's extremely important. I also had the privilege to help lead our ACA outreach efforts in 2013 and 2014. Reiterating some of what was said before, I think some of the key reasons that worked well was the combination of philanthropy. We worked very closely with the California Endowment. The state, Covered California, was a big partner. Local organizations and CBOs were key to the effort, but as well as media. We had a great media coalition of Spanish language media groups, TV, radio, print, and everything, and we think that's important. Two big things that are going to be needed for this, I think, are time, making sure we have enough time to get the information out there, and resources. So count on Univision as a partner in this effort. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Carolyn Becker here in this moment on behalf of California Community Foundation and LA in Sync, representing, as you know, the single most hardest to count county in the country. CCF and LA in Sync are here to also align voices and suggesting there's a critical need for augmenting funding for community-based outreach. Philanthropy is committed and ready and looks forward to partnering with the state and other stakeholders to ensure a complete count in 2020, especially in the hardest to count communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Samantha Singh with Next Gen America. We appreciate the governor's support and investment in the complete count. Also appreciate this committee and the legislature's continuing support. We were happy to join CPEN and our other organizations on their budget item letter and greatly encourage everyone to continue thinking along investment in CBOs as they're going to be key to a complete count. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Joanne Fields from San Diego. I represent the Asian Pacific Islander Initiative, and I have the unique experience of having worked as a recruiting assistant in 2000 and also the partnership specialist to outreach the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander and Asian communities. While everyone is vying to say that they are the hardest county to count, I would like to make the pitch for San Diego, being in the border region, that we have that concern of the citizenship question. I know that's been brought up often, but I would also like to bring the concern of cybersecurity now that we are going online, and how are we also going to address the digital divide. In 2010, we didn't fund internet radio stations back then because there wasn't analytics available, so there wasn't media buys, but I can tell you that internet radio stations like Island Block has analytics of 4 million reach. We also have smaller stations in the local area, KBLK, that has a reach in the African American community. So while we say that there are a lot of concerns, but I do want to bring attention to the Asian Pacific Islander, especially the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander community. I don't think the community really understands what that umbrella entails. Because if I ask you and say, who is in the Asian community? You may think Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Hmong, but if I say Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, it's Hawaiian, Chamorro, Samoan, but that huge umbrella also includes Filipinos. It includes Tongans and so many other API groups that we get lost in the mix. And then if I ask you about Southern California, that usually means LA. And I was born in LA, but I am raised in San Diego, having the typical Filipino story of my dad was in the Navy, my mom's a nurse. But we don't fall right away when we say Asian Pacific Islander, we think Filipino. In San Diego County, with all the API groups put together, half are Filipino. So when we look for the messaging, please don't forget the smaller papers like our oldest and largest paper, the Filipino Press, because it is very hard when it seems like we're competing when it comes to media dollars and outreach. Because again, We are Southern California, usually means LA, maybe Orange County, and then there's San Diego. And we also have the largest number of Indian reservations. People don't think that that comes into play. So there's a lot that goes on. We have the marina, and thank you for your time. And I'd like to meet Chris if she's in, and Ditas, I was referred to by Regina. I need to meet them. But thank you for holding this hearing.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Judy Robinson, the Census Manager for Sacramento County. This has been a great hearing this morning, and our Board of Supervisors has adopted a resolution, and they're fully committed to getting as complete a count as possible. They also share a concern of an undercount. We want to thank the governor and the staff for proposing the budget for census funding. Yet, similar to all the comments that have been made, it's going to take huge and vast resources that certainly exceed that amount. And we're in need of that, like all other counties across the state. I want to commend your staff. I mean, Chris and Elisa have been wonderful, as has Ditas. We had our first convening, the regional convening was in Sacramento. And frankly, with the broad spectrum of community-based organizations that were there, I was proud to be a Sacramentan. We've got a lot of work to do, but we have a lot of passionate folks to do it. I'd also like to reiterate that across the counties, with San Mateo, Santa Clara to begin with, Dorothea's, what a role model they are. But the counties across California are starting to collaborate. We've got some regular calls that are set up, and it's really important that we continue to work together, share our successes and failures, so that we can really leverage all the resources that you're going to provide us with. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having this. This is great. My name is Tina Reynolds with Uptown Studios, and we got involved early, and I already know, I count, and I think many of you, what we're involved in is, I think that this is such an opportunity to break down barriers and silos, and people are going to really start working together, and it's the start of many other collaborations. Thank you for pulling this all together.
Thank you, and thank you for the T-shirts.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you. I guess I'll quickly say some comments and then turn it over to Dr. Pan. But I'm just so heartened by every conversation I have about the census, and this, has just been very informational, very educational, and a total joy to hear everybody come and get involved and offer your insights on what's worked in the past and what hasn't, and what we need to triple down on this year or the next 2 years through the census in 2020, because the challenge is greater than it's ever been in the past. But it's so important, especially for that I count that was on that T-shirt. Making sure that as I always make sure to give him attribution. When Attorney General Javier Becerra said, if you're not counted, you don't count, and every Californian counts. And so it's going to be a heck of a challenge. I've just been very heartened by conversations that I've had. I remember I was meeting a gentleman who has a foundation in my district to talk about higher education issues. And when we were done with that, he said, "What else are you working on?" And I said, just became chair of the select committee on the census. And he said, "Really? That's really interesting. I want to introduce you to the executive director of my foundation." He did, and she said, "We're already working on it." That's been kind of the case with so many conversations I've had, whether in the philanthropic community or the CBO community, where you are all aware, you've been participants in the past, you realize the importance, and we're going to have to partner between government, the philanthropic community, and the CBO nonprofit community to make sure that every Californian counts and is counted in 2020. So really appreciate you all participating in what's the first of going to be many conversations over the next 2 years, and we're gonna, if we work together, I'm very confident that we're gonna make sure that every Californian's counted.
So I just want to thank everyone for being here, and all of the witnesses who came to testify and to speak today. I also want to thank Assemblymember Berman for his leadership in the State Assembly, and also our legislative colleagues who participate in this hearing, and who also, the ones who aren't physically here, also being engaged as well. I know their staff is paying attention and listening to what's happening here today. I would just say that we have an opportunity here with the census to really show what California values are about, what our innovation is about, and how we come together as a community to overcome barriers to succeed. We talk about how we prize our diversity, our innovation, our forward-thinkingness. Well, here's an opportunity to prove that to the rest of the country through our success in being sure everyone counts in the U.S. Census here in California, because we really truly do believe here in California that everyone counts. And that's why I'm really thrilled that we have people coming together. We actually kind of, for those of us who are elected office, compared it to a campaign. You usually start about a year and a half to 2 years in advance, right? And you identify your voters, and then you go and you turn them out, right? So we're going to have, we call it GOTV for elections, or GOTC, get out the count, right? So we're going to do that come April 2020. But the lead up to that, that's what we have to figure out, organize, put together. I also want to thank the governor's office as well. This is something we all need to work together, hand in hand, cooperation, and make successful. So again, this is just our first hearing, and I just want to thank everyone who participated, and I'm looking forward to our continuing conversations and our eventual success in 2020. So again, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, and we'd be very remiss if we didn't thank Chris Wagaman and Elisa Ochita for all the work that you all did for putting this together. So thank you both very much also. Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Okay, this hearing is adjourned.